Okay, Chris. The Steelers teased it. It is 3 p.m. Eastern. Do we have the big announcement quite yet?
I don't see one yet. Somebody needed to really make use of the Michael Scott gif. I'm going to have a big surprise. I don't see it yet, but here we are on a Tomlin Tuesday, waiting for a big surprise in the afternoon.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah.
Spoiler: it is not the announcement that Kenny Chesney is coming back to Acrisure Stadium in 2024, and here it is, the big announcement. Chris has it on the screen. Block numbers are coming back against the Green Bay Packers. There's a photo of Alex Highsmith pointing at the camera. The block 56 is right there on the screen. That's the big teased announcement that is coming from Steelers social media.
I kind of had a feeling it was uniform related. I mean, whenever these kind of announcements come, I mean, it's. I mean, what else are they going to announce in the middle of a season? I saw some people be like, maybe they're going to fire Matt Canada. It's like, dude, come on, man.
This is the Southside Beat, of course. As we are Monday through Friday, 3 to 3:30 Eastern.
Yeah.
Here on DK Pittsburgh Sports on YouTube. He's Chris Halicke. I'm Corey Crisan. On Tuesday, November 7th, 2023. So there you have it. It took a 21-hour tease to finally get a payoff. And the payoff is that block numbers are coming back. Hey, listen, I like the block numbers. I am of the school that they should wear them permanently.
I agree.
However, certain occasions will merit the block numbers. And Mike Tomlin did not tease that today. Among the many things that were discussed, have been discussed on this really fiery Tomlin Tuesday, I think.
Yeah.
Mike Tomlin was really on it today. And I think it's a combination of the Steelers won on Thursday. He got a few days off. He got to watch actual football instead of have to work on Sunday. And then he comes in today and is just guns a-blazing, ready to go on just about everything.
Yeah. I think the big problem is, and again, I'm not going to sit here and call out members of the media. That's not what I'm going to do. I've been in those press conference rooms. I've been in those media scrums. I'm not going to call anybody out, but there were definitely questions trying to, I dare say, even ruffle feathers, trying to really, really take advantage of the drama that was possibly there or even possibly not there. I guess I'm just an old school reporter. I'm there to ask questions about the team when it comes to stuff. Obviously, there are certain questions that need to be asked. Cryptic stuff going on social media, I'm not going to spend my time asking the coach about that. If George Pickens goes on full blast and he says, I hate Mike Tomlin, I hate the Pittsburgh Steelers, that's something completely different. That's different.
Mm-hmm.
If we're talking about cryptic stuff, he deleted stuff or he unfollowed somebody, it's not that big of a deal to me. It's really not. I'm not going to spend my time asking those questions. But some people with their reporting styles prefer to ask those type of questions and prefer to care more about the drama that goes on off the field instead of what's going on the field. And with a team like this, there's plenty on the field to talk about. That's the thing. It's not like they're, pedestrian and boring on the field. No, there's a lot of stuff to talk about that's on the field, and even stuff if you want the drama. But Mike Tomlin was even really, really colorful when it came to even that kind of stuff. Somebody asked the question about about Kenny Pickett's pass rating for in the first three quarters versus the fourth quarter, and his answer to that, I'm like, dang, dude, like he
said,
was.
Well, what's the pass rating of the fourth? I mean, the questioner was like 102 or whatever.
108.
He's like, well, ask about that.
Or it's like, why don't you start off with that? It's like, well,
Crystal, we're getting there. Crystal asks, what's the second look? Lost by today's headline. We'll get there. Don't you worry. But first things first, we got to talk this George Pickens thing. As I said Friday, as I said yesterday, as I said today, and I will say today, rather, this is such a non-issue. It's not even funny that for whatever reason, the social media sphere and again, sour grapes and PTSD from Antonio Brown and Juju and Chase Claypool. That's what all of this is a result of.
Yeah.
Mike Tomlin, his answer today about George Pickens, first off, of course, he doesn't know anything about cryptic social media posts because that's not the atmosphere that Mike Tomlin lives in.
Mm-hmm.
Mike Tomlin today about George Pickens. He's asked, hey, does George ever act frustrated? Does he ever express frustrations? Mike Tomlin goes, heck yeah, man. He expresses frustrations all the time. And I'm like, now this is what I came here for.
Yeah.
This is the show that I wanted. And then he was followed up by asking, and he said a bunch of other stuff. And then the follow-up question was, how do you coach a guy that's that young through frustrations? And he goes, like breathing. It's easy. And I'm like,
yeah,
that's unbelievable. He said, what did he say? It's a pebble in my shoe because he's so worried about the Green Bay Packers and Jordan Love and what that team will bring to Acrisure on Sunday. But that is vintage Mike Tomlin. Of course, he doesn't care about social media stuff that George Pickens may or may not be posting. Of course, he's going to paint the narrative to say that people are caring too much about what's posted online, which I think he's right in a way. Swan, thanks for 5 gifted. We appreciate that. And I think what he said about George Pickens is spot on. I don't think there's a reason. I'll say it for, I guess, a third time in the last 5 days. I don't think there's a reason to paint George Pickens out as anything. I don't think there's a reason to believe that George Pickens doesn't like being in Pittsburgh. I don't think that George Pickens dislikes being in Pittsburgh. So with that said, I think this is something that we can move on from and, just proceed as usual. Mike Tomlin seems to not think there's an issue. He loves George Pickens, and that's that.
Yeah. I don't, this entire thing, even whenever it was catching fire on social media, or at least on Twitter, whenever, all this whole thing started about, oh, he unfollowed some so-and-so, or he deleted all of his posts except for this one random one from 2020. It was just like, here we go again, when it comes to this kind of stuff, and I don't see any reason to focus on that. It is what it is. Pickens is, we do live in a different age now where, that was never part of my youth. So I don't fully understand it. I don't. To this day, I still don't have a TikTok account. It's not because I hate TikTok. It's just I've never had the desire to do it. If I tried, dude, it doesn't mean it's not like all old people are against it. Dude, Pomp has a TikTok account and he's dang good at it.
And he runs it well. He runs it well. The only reason I have a TikTok is because my girlfriend wants to send me things and me to react to them, and I'm cool with that.
Right. Yeah. So it's just, my first social media account that I ever had was MySpace, and it was after I graduated high school.
Now we're getting into it.
Yeah,
we're getting to it.
It was just so it's not something that I fully understand. I didn't grow up with it. I didn't get my first cell phone until I was 17. Right 3 months before I graduated high school. So it just, I grew up in a different time. And it's just, it's not something I'm not going to understand. And maybe that's why anytime anything happens on social media, like I said, unless it's an absolute, I hate everything about being on this team. And it's
unless he outright calls them out, blasts them. Yeah.
That's different. But all this other cryptic stuff when it comes to, all the drama that goes along with, I've had people who don't want to be friends with me anymore because either I unfriended them on Facebook or I not even unfriended, but unfollowed them on Facebook because maybe we don't agree on the political spectrum. So, hey, we can still be friends, but I just don't want to see you pushing your political agenda. So I just unfollow so I don't see it in my feed. And then all of a sudden we're not friends anymore because you did this. It's just like, dude.
Yeah.
Calm down.
Matt says Pickens needs to grow up. There's no I in team. Matt, here's the thing about that, okay? George Pickens is 22 years old. Do you know what he's going to do? He's going to act like a 22-year-old. And until he turns 23, he's going to act like a 22-year-old. And he's going to act like a 22-year-old until he turns 23. He might act like a 23-year-old until he turns 24, etc. This is just this day and age. It's different. It's different. The social media atmosphere, the tweets, the Instagram stories, they call the word for it's clout. Like nowadays, like all of that matters to George Pickens' era, George Pickens' age. And I'm talking about like this 18 to 24 demographic. I mean, we're talking demographics by this point.
Yeah.
So look, if George Pickens wants to put whatever on social media, okay, we can interpret it how we want. However, that doesn't necessarily mean it's a one-on-one comparison to what we think is the problem and what George Pickens might be communicating or be stressing or might actually have a problem with. He might have made that post about something completely unrelated and completely different, and we just don't know that because we're not in tune with his personal life. He's entitled to post what he wants to post on the social media, and like Chris said, and like I agree with, and I said this yesterday, unless he's on record with an interview or some podcast or anything, outwardly calling
or a tweet
out,
or an Instagram story, wherever it comes from.
Yeah, or he outwardly says, I hate it here, or F this place, or he calls out Mike Tomlin or calls out, then we can react to it. Yeah. The cryptic stuff, it's a non-story. It truthfully just is a non-story. Swan asks, what's the stone in your shoe, fellas? The stone in my shoe is when stories that don't need to be stories get made into stories, just like this. That's the stone in my shoe. That's the thing that grinds my gears.
It grinds my gears.
What's the stone in your shoe, Chris, before we move on to, as Crystal bring up earlier, the second look in the title of today's
show? The people
show.
On the highway that can't learn how to wait their turn whenever everybody's trying to get off the highway and there's a long line and you have the one guy who wants to just shoot up and cut everybody in line and get in right at the last second. Those are the people that didn't learn how to wait their turn in kindergarten.
Yeah. The stone in my shoe are the
I have
people,
many pebbles in my shoe.
The stone in my shoe. The stone in my shoe are the people that stand up in the middle of the plane aisle before we're even allowed to unbuckle the seatbelts. It's like, it's one thing if you have a connection and you got to get to the connection, but then you kind of start telling people like, listen, man, I'm sorry. Like, I just got to go. Like, I have a connection in 15 minutes. I have to go. Can you please let me through? And then there's just some, Karens and Kyles out there that'll just stand in the middle of the aisle because they think they own the plane because they bought a ticket, in middle, the back of first class or anything like that. Like, let's single file exit, wait your turn to get off the plane, chill. All right. That's the big one for me. And people that drive slow in the left lane, come on, figure it out. All right. Let's go to the actual topic of conversation. The quote unquote second look, as Crystal brings up, as is denoted by the title of our show, it regards Broderick Jones. And it's no secret that Broderick Jones played really well on Thursday in Chuks Okorafor's place on short notice at right tackle. We know the reason why Chuks was benched, or at least the majority of it, as told by Chuks himself and today by Mike Tomlin. It was something that Chuks said at the end of the Jaguars game last Sunday, and Mike Tomlin didn't like it. And of course, Mike Tomlin nor Chuks said what was said because they don't really have to be completely honest with you. So we just have to kind of leave it at Chuks did something that Mike Tomlin didn't like, and Mike Tomlin took him out of the lineup because of it. As a result, Broderick Jones comes in, and the Steelers' offensive line looks the best it has all season, and they run for a season-high yards, and I don't think that's a coincidence. So today, Mike Tomlin, of course, talked about Broderick Jones, and does he get a second look? And Mike Tomlin said, Broderick Jones is worthy of a second look at right tackle.
I mean, good. I mean, he's now officially, B-Phil says, please tell me Jones is going to keep playing. Broderick Jones is officially on the depth chart listed as the starter with Chuks Okorafor, which means it's either one. Now, when that happens, usually it's the person listed first that gets the, maybe like if it's kind of like a toss-up based off of what he saw in practice, then maybe the guy who's listed first gets it, which Broderick Jones is technically listed first now. So Broderick Jones has got to have a really bad week in practice in order for Chooks to play, from what it sounds like. I'm talking about everything that he's done well on the field. It's the exact opposite in practice. Oh man, everybody,
bring them on. Bring them on.
Everybody
them today. I want them today. What's the pebble in your shoe? There's a radio show I listen to. It's on Mad Dog. It's the DA show. Damon Mendelara, shout out Syracuse's own. And he does a segment called Trash Tuesday where you just trash something. You know, I'm trashing the guy that drives slow in the left lane. Bring that, but we're calling it Pebble in the shoe today. I mean, that's what we're doing today. I'm all for it. And we'll pop some on the screen here. Just like Damon says, I hate the ones that bring 6 carry-on bags onto the plane.
We started something today, man.
I think that's against the rules, isn't it? Like you got a suitcase, you get a carry-on, and you get a backpack, and then you're out. Like figure it out. Otherwise,
I think it does depend airline to airline, but I'm pretty sure I've never tried to do more than like a duffel bag or / like mini suitcase and a backpack. I've never tried to do more than that.
Jim says drivers who think their phone is more important than driving. Excellent one. Put the phone down. Don't text and drive.
Yeah, that's happened, but that's been happening ever since like iPhones came out.
It's pretty pretty self-explanatory by this point. But anyway, Broderick Jones. Look, again, he deserves a second look. I'll say that. He's definitely worthy of a second look. And to be frank, he was worthy of a second look after the Ravens game when the Steelers played just about as well as they had all season up to that point as far as the offensive line goes, if not their best game to that point, with Broderick Jones at left tackle. And Broderick gets 2 days to prepare for the right side. He aced the tests again. And now his reward, I guess, so to speak, is the competition of being the starting right tackle with Chooks Okorafor throughout the week. And that's going to be evaluated throughout the week. That's going to be monitored this week. Mm-hmm. And it's at least not ruled out. In fact, I might even say it could be more than likely by this point that Broderick Jones takes over at right tackle. Now, part of that is because they played really, really damn well with him there, but also we really don't know the nature of this Chooks situation. It's obviously not so bad that he had to be made inactive on Thursday because he actually played one snap. He was the jumbo right tackle next to Jones. But there's, all right. Rule 1, no rules says this show sucks. Some days it does.
Is this the same guy?
I don't know.
Is this the same person who told me I sucked earlier or like last week or whenever?
I don't know. I mean, look, we talked about the George Pickens thing because Mike Tomlin talked about the George Pickens thing today, and both of us loved his answer today. And now we're talking about Broderick Jones, and we'll move on and do so.
Frank, by the way, is like preach it loud, say it louder for the people in the back, man.
The left lane is the passing lane. The left lane is the passing lane. That's correct. Barbara, thank you. For saying the show does not suck. Look, some days aren't our best. Some days are good. Some days are better than others. I think that's the ebb and flow of, live radio, live podcasts, podcast recordings in general, music, anything like that. Some days are not your best. Some days are better than others. So we'll take them in stride where we can. Joe Vlogs, that's the one thing. First off, Steelers 7 Girl says nothing to celebrate with Mike Tomlin's answers. Classless answers. Mike Tomlin was on something today. He was pretty fired up, I think. Yeah. I don't think there was anything classless about what he had to say today, though. What did Chooks say? Joe asks. Nobody's saying. And to be honest with you, this is something that kind of gets lost. This is something that kind of gets lost, at least in reporting and journalism and all this stuff. No one has to say what was said. No one has to repeat it. They can keep that in-house if they really want to, and it sounds like they want to. So until, somebody comes forward or, an insider breaks it or, anything like that, no one's going to say. And to be honest with you, that's fine. What we need to know is what happened, and the what is that Chooks said something. What Chooks said, the what beyond the what is unknown and probably won't be made known in the public eye. So it's hard to say. Like, again, it wasn't so egregious that he was traded, cut, suspended, made inactive, any of those variables. But it also was bad enough for him to lose his job on a game day. So yeah, as Mike says, it must have been bad to a certain degree, but it wasn't a fireable offense as the term might go.
Yeah, no, I agree. By the way, Mark, where else can you get Steelers football talking Tony Romo impressions? Oh, I don't know, Jim. I don't know about those impressions there, Jim.
Damon, thank you for the $9.99 contribution. And Damon says, some people complain Tomlin doesn't discipline his guys. I think the fact that he sat Chooks and started Jones definitely tells me he has a handle on a team. Jones energized the rest of the line. It's a very fair take. That's a very fair point.
All the things that you can criticize about Mike Tomlin, him not handling his team is 100% not a thing. I mean,
the show is
100% not a thing. Chris G, I hate people that think In-N-Out is better than Whataburger.
Show the cup, Chris. I know you have one. Yeah.
Now, to be fair, I like both, but Whataburger's better.
Fair enough. We don't have either up here in Pittsburgh. So.
But I do think Whataburger is starting to travel or at least grow a little bit more. So hopefully, other people outside of Texas or even just the general South get to experience it because it is phenomenal.
Bob, this is a good one too. A boulder in his shoe is the people who tune into a hell of a show on the daily and don't hit the like. Leave us a like, share the episode, leave us a rating on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify. We're everywhere. Leave us a rating, share the episode. That helps go so far, and that helps the show only grow and makes this a lot more fun like we're having today. We're having a great time today, I'll tell you that.
We are.
We're starting Whataburger, versus In-N-Out claims. We're talking about what
Chris
really grinds
G,
our gears.
Representing Houston, the armpit of Texas.
Shows ratings higher than Kenny's fourth quarter rating.
Myself, I'm sorry.
Oh, man.
For those of you who don't know, I am broadcasting from the DFW area, so there's a little bit of a rivalry between Dallas and Houston. Just
Chris, what's in the cup?
A little bit.
What's in the cup?
Good old Coke.
Okay.
Sometimes I go sweet tea. Sometimes I go Dr. Pepper. Today, just good old regular Coke.
Spice is taking umbrage.
Listen, the rivalry between Dallas and Houston's a thing, man. It is. And, right now, Dallas is riding high because the Rangers won the World Series and Houston didn't. So, it is what it is.
Can't go to the parade there. Didn't go to the parade.
I did not go to the parade. I was shooting this show instead of going to the parade.
Probably a better idea.
Yes.
Freeman asks, who actually hired Canada, Rooney or Tomlin? Depends on, I guess, the spot. As the offensive coordinator, he was promoted. So that's kind of a call for both, I would say.
Yeah. Well, from what I understand, Tomlin has the freedom to make decisions with his coaching staff. I do think, though, that no matter what, the buck stops with obviously Art Rooney II. So if Tomlin wants to do something, and no matter what Art Rooney II says no or yes, whatever he says is ultimately what happens. But I do think that Art Rooney II really trusts Tomlin enough, especially with his coaching staff, that I do think he's going to support Tomlin the vast majority of the time. So I think that's kind of what it is. So it's Tomlin's decision unless Art Rooney II trumps him.
Shout out to New Lebanon, Ohio. That's a location I didn't expect to hear today. Cool to hear, actually. B-Phil asks, do you think we'll ever get a Pittsburgh versus Philadelphia Super Bowl? The odds are really low. A lot has to happen for that to happen. And I think we've come close a couple of times.
04, for sure. The Super Bowl 39. Eagles made it, and Steelers lost to the cheating Patriots in the AFC Championship. That's the one that I can think of where it came the closest. I'm sure there's been at least a couple of other times where it's been kind of, especially during the 2000s, because how many NFC championships did the Eagles go to and lose? So probably happened more often than I think, but that's the one that I can really, because the Steelers were 15-1 that year, and the Eagles obviously were the best team in the NFC. And so it was like, okay, this might actually happen. And obviously it
Yeah.
didn't happen.
Let's take one more question from Mentoring Men here, and then we'll go to our final point. Mentoring Men asks, are we stuck with Kennedy's mediocrity? Both rookies look 10 folds better than Kenny. I'm imagining you're talking about Stroud and Levis and not Stroud and Bryce Young, the top 2 picks in the draft, because not many people are looking better than Bryce Young right now, with all due respect to CJ Stroud and Will Levis. Look, thing is, Kenny's on a rookie contract. You have to figure out when you cut the cord, if you cut the cord, or what you do. I am going to be on the firm. I'm going to have my seat buckled, let me put it this way, with the door locked on the train of, before you do anything with respect to Kenny Pickett or Mike Tomlin, you have to get rid of Matt Canada first, if that's the course of action. I think that's pretty predictable by this stage, is that they're going to do what they can to surround Kenny, to make Kenny succeed. And he's on a rookie deal, so you have him for a couple more years, right? And you don't have to spend a bunch of money on a new quarterback. So, I think that with Kenny, he's going to be the quarterback of this team until his rookie deal's over. I'm pretty confident in that. Real quick, too, from Lifted Ones, what's going on with Minka? Mike Tomlin said likely going to ramp up and then be a little more participant in practice, if you will, towards the end of the week. So whether that means limited or full by the time we get to Friday, to be determined. But it sounds like they're going to ease Minka Fitzpatrick back into at least practice this week. Chris, one more note. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, to kind of just touch on the Kenny thing, Monongahela Mike says, give the guy a chance. I'm like, listen, Kenny, he's shown enough, and to Mike Tomlin's point, the dude is not just clutch, but he's just good in the fourth quarter. And when there's that ability to turn it on when the game is truly on the line, that means that it's there to be untapped. How do they untap it? Well, I have my own opinions on how that might happen. I think a better offensive coordinator would help with that. I think a more consistent performance with the offensive line would help that. There's a number of different variables that can help with that. But the talent and the tools are there. It's been evident. I mean, and it's quantifiable with what he does in the fourth quarter. How does he untap it? And Mike Tomlin said, we're going to work on the first 3 quarters. They have to. Mike Tomlin is smart enough to know you can't play 15 good minutes a game and sustain success year after year after year in the NFL. He knows that.
Yeah.
He's just not going to give the bone that the media is looking for.
Never.
He's very aware and knows, anybody who knows this game knows you can't play a really good quarter of the game and that's it. He has to get better at the first 3 quarters. So it's there. Continue to try to untap it, and everybody grows at different rates. Everybody does. If it were as simple as, after 4 or 5 games, you'd see quarterbacks get discarded, and maybe sometimes the quarterbacks that are discarded too quickly, maybe they would have been better if teams would have had more patience, but not every team has patience.
Joe Yinzer puts it together really well here. Kenny Pickett really needs a breakout 4-quarter game. Put it all together for one game.
100%.
The final topic to address, and we can do this in brief because I think we did it a little bit on Friday and a little bit yesterday, is Cole Holcomb officially out for the year, as told by Mike Tomlin today. Yeah. And you're not going to see much of Mark Robinson, it sounds like. It sounds like he's going to be content with having Quan Alexander and Landon Roberts out there as every down inside backers. It sounds like Quan's going to be, top of the depth chart, so to speak, and then a Landon right behind him as kind of the specialized run stopper. And then Mark Robinson's going to kind of fill in where needed. And today, Mike Tomlin used the word luxury that Cole Holcomb and Landon Roberts and Quan Alexander really created. Yeah. When it came to having just those 3 veteran inside guys. And now it's just a -1. It's kind of back to normal proceedings as far as that depth is concerned.
Yeah, it's definitely a huge blow because, what was obviously the weakest part of the roster last year has become a bit of a strength this year. And now obviously losing Holcomb, not that group was like one of the absolute best in the NFL or anything like that, but overall performance, way better than it was last year. Way better. Both in pass coverage and in run defense. It's a huge blow for sure. But I think this just goes to show, as much as losing Holcomb hurts, I still really like the duo of Quan Alexander and Landon Roberts. I do think that they're, as long as those two guys can stay on the field, stay healthy, I think they're going to be okay. It's still going to hurt not having Cole Holcomb there. I'm not taking that away. But the way that entire trio is played, I feel a lot better about how the Steelers are going to deal with it, as opposed to, the worst fears that we're going to be there about possibly inside linebacker.
Right. Now, there are questions now. Who's going to be kind of the fourth ILB? Now, Keanu Neal has played some inside backer. They really don't have one, so you'd have to look at the practice squad. Maybe they bring like a Tanner Muse back or a Nick Kwiatkowski, somebody that was with the team in training camp that might be, kind of sitting on the couch now looking for work. So maybe they go back to the practice squad on that. Keanu Neal is more of like the 3 safety look, the dime look they like to do.
Especially when they make it back,
Yeah, and without Minkah, rather Minkah being uncertain, we could say that at this stage, that Minkah's still a little uncertain for Sunday. Having Keanu Neal back there with DeMonte KZ, and of course not Joey Porter Jr., pardon me, Patrick Peterson rotating in some snaps at safety in the slot. Yeah. That's going to help out too. So it's kind of TBD on the linebacker depth behind Mark Robb. So could be a practice squad guy, could be, I saw somebody float around the idea of finding a way to get Nick Herbig on the field and potentially letting him play a little ILB. I don't think they're going to do that. No, I don't think that's the right idea for him, at least as a rookie. Now
they're pretty well. So coming out of the draft, there. You were there. You and I both covered the draft together. They were very clear about Nick Herbig at edge rusher.
Yes, they were.
And so now, coming out of the draft, there were a lot of questions about if he could hack it at edge rusher, not because he wasn't good or because of his production in college. Obviously, he was very good in college.
Very good at Wisconsin.
The question was, with his size and everything like that, is he going to hold up? Would it be better if he eventually moved to an off-ball linebacker spot? And so maybe I think that's why some people, and maybe there's a way that they could kind of make some sort of hybrid, like he kind of lines up on the edge, but he drops back in coverage way more than he rushes. I don't know. Yeah. But, they'll, and Matt Hyde, welcome. Thank you so much for becoming a member, man.
Thanks, Matt.
Yeah, you guys, listen, it's not just this show, Ramon Foster show coming up in less than 30 minutes, man. Mm-hmm. You guys are going to enjoy it. We think we're a good show. Regardless of whatever his face said earlier, we think we're a pretty good show. Episode 50 today, by the way. Thank you guys for all your support. But Ramon show coming up in less than 30 minutes, man. That's just gold. We can't compare with a former Steelers offensive lineman. So
hey, we're doing our best. I think we bring a good product. It's definitely a unique product. I'm not gonna downplay our accomplishment. 50 episodes, we greatly appreciate it. Yeah. We greatly appreciate all of you who have been around through 50 or 49 or one episode, however many you've been through. We greatly appreciate it. We greatly appreciate the contributions, the new memberships, and all of that goes with it. Again, please like and share this episode. It goes
Swan
so far.
Quoting Taylor Swift for everybody.
Haters gonna hate, man. Haters gonna hate. Yes, low res Corey. Now, the show quality literally might be a little on the low side.
The next 2 days are going to be fun because
we're going to find out. We're going to find out. But
the next 2 days are going to be fun because we're going to be dealing with low quality Corey, and they're doing good right now. But both of my kids are laying in bed right now because they are both battling the flu, as we found out.
So we actually thought about doing a shorter show today, but we made it. It sounds like everything's okay over there for Dr. Dad. So we'll let Chris go be Dr. Dad for the time being. We will be back
home the next couple of days, man. It's gonna be fun, man.
We will be back Wednesday, Thursday. Chris will be here Friday solo. I will be on the road to New York for Pitt football, so be on the lookout for all that. Stay tuned to this very channel where you found this live stream for DK and Ramon, the Ramon Foster Show, in about 25 minutes. But for now, he's Chris and I'm Corey. This is the Southside Beat. Cheers, everybody.